the podcast that will tell you all the secrets about working as a musician on a cruise ship with Eric Rubens.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Shiplife. In this very first episode, we must start from the beginning, and that is getting the job, of course. A lot of musicians fantasize about the idea of working on a cruise ship, but most of them don't even know where to start. But let's begin to describe and list the different types of jobs available in the first place. And let's talk about how much money you can expect to be paid. The ship's workforce is organized into departments, and the musicians are part of the entertainment department. This department is composed of musicians, dancers, actors, singers, and recreational staff. As a musician or singer, you can be in a production show and work in the ship's theater, or be a lounge musician and work everywhere on the ship, meaning the lounge, atrium, bars, and restaurants. For example, in Norwegian Cruise Line, we have a 4-piece band for the theater. This band plays in all the production shows held there, and depending on the ship, you may have to play in 2 production shows or maybe just only 1. Each production must perform 4 shows a week. Usually you get to do 2 performances in 1 day, meaning that you would only work 2 days a week. But of course, you would need to rehearse at least once a week and have a couple of sound checks here and there. If you have 2 production shows, you will double the time you spend in the theater, and there's no extra pay for this. It only depends on the ship you got assigned to. As a theater musician, you have to prepare for the show and rehearse before embarkation. To do that, they will fly you to their creative studios on land, and they will pay you just a stipend per day. In case you are wondering, yes, they will provide transportation and accommodation, but the food and other expenses would be on you. The upside of being a theater musician is the salary. This is the highest paid job a musician can get, varying from $3,200 to $4,000 for musicians and $3,800 up to $6,000 for singers and principals per month. The downside is that the contract is very long, 6 months on the ship plus maybe 3 to 5 weeks rehearsing on land. Sometimes you may get a 2-week extension, and your contract would easily reach 7 or even 8 months. And believe me, sometimes it's not that easy to be away in a ship for so long. In Norwegian, some production shows are not held in the theater. They have other smaller venues. Nonetheless, the position is still considered to be theater musician, or principal in the case of the singers. For example, Sid Norman's show is the typical band you would find in a bar, and they indeed play in one of the bars on the ship. Their schedule is a bit different. They get to play 6 days a week, but is mostly a 1-hour show with a different set list for each day. So yes, a lot of songs to memorize, but their shows are around 8 or 9 p.m., so they usually don't need to run to the ship for a sound check at 5 in the afternoon. For lounge musicians, the story is a bit different. Depending on the size of the ship, we will have more or fewer musicians, but usually there's a 4 or 5-piece party band, a jazz quartet, including a singer, a duet, and 2 soloists. They could be a singer-guitarist or a pianist. These soloists are considered principal musicians, so they get a couple of extra privileges that are not shared with the rest. The salaries for lounge musicians vary from $2,400 to $3,400. They get to play 6 days a week, and they rotate the day off, so maybe 1 week you get a Monday off and the next week you get the Friday off. The jazz band usually plays in a restaurant, but sometimes you may see them in the atrium, which is a big lounge in the middle of the ship. The party band usually gets to play in the pool deck and also the atrium. The duet, consisting of 2 singer-instrumentalists, plays in the smaller open bars as well as the soloists. As you can see, these musicians go and play around the ship. They used to be allowed to get some tips from guests, but unfortunately, now there's a new policy preventing this from happening. They get to choose their set list. Some of them even play their original songs, and if you ask your supervisor, you may even be allowed to sell your CDs to the guests. But let's talk a bit about the principals, who they are, and why they are not treated as musicians. The principals are usually the singers in a production show. Sometimes they get to dance or do some acting. They are the highest paid and usually come from the music theater scene. They also get some privileges on the ship, bigger cabins with private bathrooms and a lot of free time. While musicians get hired through agencies and have to do an online audition or sometimes only submit a video, principals need to go through a real audition process. Some of them travel across the country at their own expense. The auditions may take several days, and then you may get a callback for a final one where it's decided if you get the job or not. The principals usually work with an agent, and they sometimes charge from 10 to 15% of their salary. On the ship, they only get hired to perform in one production show, resulting in them having 4 to 5 days off. This, of course, sounds incredible to some, but the catch to it is that ship life can get expensive or boring if you don't find something to do with that free time. Many of the principals spend way too much money at the ports and on the ship, and they may forget they are working. Also, they have a lot of time for gossip. Who doesn't gossip on a cruise ship anyways? They get the privilege of walking around in passenger areas, eating in the guests' restaurants and the buffet, and free access to the spa and bigger cabins. And because their contracts are better negotiated because of their agents, they can complain and nag a bit more without getting into trouble. Theater musicians also get the privilege of walking around passenger areas, eating at restaurants, and going to the spa. But of course, they have less free time, and musicians usually practice. Lounge musicians and singers can walk around passenger areas, and sometimes they are allowed to eat at the restaurants. All the musicians have private cabins with shared bathrooms. The cabins are very small, but that's better than sharing it, right? On the other hand, the soloists are considered principal musicians. They don't get paid that much, and they have to play 6 days a week. But they get to enjoy a bigger cabin with a private bathroom and the same privileges as the theater musicians. But we will get into more of these privileges in upcoming episodes. Let's get now to the question we want to answer in this episode. Tell me, Eric, how do I get the job? If you are a musician, you need to sign a contract with an agency. Most of them are constantly looking for musicians. It can take up a year or more time before they contact you, but eventually they will. You need to check out their websites where they often have a form you can submit to them. When they have a job offer, they'll send you an email, and my guess is that the first people to reply might get it. If it's your first time, they will ask you to send them a video of you playing, or you may have to do a sight reading audition. It will depend on the job. For production shows, some positions don't require you to sight read, and for soloists, party bands, and duets, you would submit your repertoire. You will need a video on YouTube. The best thing you could do is to record yourself playing a few seconds of your best songs. I suggest you pick 15 or 20 songs and just record yourself playing the choruses or the main themes. Party bands usually need to show some interaction with the audience. They always look for extroverted singers. And last but not least, auditions are held for each musician separately for the jazz band, and they will definitely ask to test your sight reading. Singers, of course, won't have to. All the agencies will ask for YouTube links, so have them ready before filling out any form. So, here are some links you need to type in your browser right now. I will tell you about some of the most popular agencies. The first one I want to mention is Landau. The address is landaumusic.com. On their website, you'll find a form you need to fill in. The good thing about Landau is that they don't take a percentage from your pay, as they have a special arrangement with some cruise lines and they get their commissions from them. That's pretty nice. Another agency is Lime. Their webpage is limemusicentertainment.com. Another very popular agency is Suman. Their webpage is sumanent.com. Most of the lounge musicians I met work with this agency. Of course, you may find a bunch more. If you think I missed one, please write me an email and share it so I can talk about it in a future episode. Okay, Eric, I see. But I'm a performer. I sing and dance. What can I do? Well, you can have your agent look for cruise ship auditions, or you can be in the loop yourself. For Norwegian Cruise Line Productions, there's an Instagram account you must follow today. They held auditions in many cities in the world, mainly in the US and UK. You need to start following the Creative Studios account on Instagram. That is Creative Studios by NCLH. For a Royal Caribbean production, they have a great web page. You just go to royalcaribbeanentertainment.com. This one works also for musicians and bands looking for a job. You can create your own profile and see what's available. For Carnival Cruises, get into carnivalentertainment.com and you can apply for the jobs available. You can even find jobs for technicians. It will show you all the positions available in their entertainment department, and of course technicians are also part of it. For production shows and rock bands, you can apply or send your material to the company directly. It's worth checking it out. And that's how you get a job in a cruise line. Just fill out a bunch of forms, fill them all, get the offer first, and if you don't like what they have available, just don't take it. If you know a fellow musician who currently works in a ship, ask them to refer you. Agencies appreciate referrals a great deal. If you are a female musician, take the opportunity today because Six the Musical is very strong right now on NCL and is an all-women show, so you will have a good chance to get the gig since traditionally this is a male-dominated industry and the female musicians are still fewer in comparison. Landau is the agency that cast for Six, in case you are wondering. Some say the cruise line that pays best to the entertainment department is Norwegian, and the one that treats us the best would be Virgin. But this is just gossip, and the best thing is to find out for yourself. And that's it for today's episode. I hope you found it useful and inspiring, and I also hope it helps you in finding a great job, or the job you are looking for. Working on cruise ships is an adventure and a challenge, is like touring the world within the venue, instead of driving to a different one every night. Having a secure paycheck each month is something not every musician has. So, give it a go. Don't be afraid to apply. Many musicians often tell me, "Oh no, now is not the right time. I can't go away for so long." But remember, you are just applying. This is the first step for getting the job, not the job itself. I didn't get a call right away. It took them a year to send me a job offer from one of the many agencies I applied to. And the job offer wasn't for tomorrow. So you will have time to think about it. Don't you worry about that. Just keep your options open. You never know if the you of the future will need this job. Feel free to contact me at shiplifethepodcast@gmail.com if you have any compliments, comments, or complaints, also questions, and everything you would like to know about working and living on a cruise ship. Those will be much appreciated as they will help shape this podcast content. My name is Eric Rubens, and this was the first episode of Ship Life.
This was Shiplife, the podcast with Eric Rubens. Feel free to contact Eric at shiplifethepodcast@gmail.com.